The Earnestly Speaking podcast is a show that is founded on free-flowing conversation and may at times venture into mature subjects. Listener discretion is advised.
Earnestly podcast here, back with a guest I've had a couple years. My man Matthew Allen, founder of DEFYNE Media, writes at every musical or urban outlet I can find. Matt, what's up, bud?
I'm doing pretty good, man. Yeah. I love writing for us blacks.
Yeah, you write at the Griot. You write from what I saw last week, and we're going to talk about this in a second. You write at Yahoo now.
Right now I chiefly write for the Griot, and the Griot has a deal with Yahoo for them to distribute articles that come from the Griot. So it's all coming from there, but you can find it on Yahoo from time to time. So that's pretty cool.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I've been chiefly writing for the Griot. I may have something special project coming up for OK Player in the coming weeks, and so it's been all good.
Yeah, we're on this call because there was a big debate on Twitter last week, which is pretty it's Twitter that we're used to this, but it involved of course Drake and Michael Jackson, and the argument about, and I don't know where to stem from. All I saw, there was a tweet some random was posted, and everyone got into it about whether Drake is right now as big as Michael Jackson at his peak. Now, a lot of that you have to figure out, okay, where do you consider Michael Jackson's peak? A lot of people have a conversation about the peak was probably in 83. Some even say 87, 88. It depends on an argument. But you were compelled enough to write an article about this last week, and it got a lot of hits, a lot of attention. Where did you see this debate stem from? Like, did you see? Was it the same tweet that I saw also too?
All right. So where I saw it from was a couple of places. There are a few. There was a rap publication that tweeted about it, and also Billboard magazine tweeted about it, asking if Drake's success with his current album, Certified Lover Boy, it was number one in its first week, and it received 744 million streams in its first week, which is a record. So they're asking, is Drake now? Is Drake peak comparable or the same as Michael Jackson's commercial peak? So I interpret it as being their commercial peak. If you read the article in Billboard, they talk about Thriller. Now, I've written an article about the Bad album, which I called Michael Jackson's artistic peak.
Yeah, we actually had you on this podcast discussing that a couple years ago.
Yes, indeed. And I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
But let's all be frank. Michael Jackson's commercial peak clearly was the Thriller album, in which it was the biggest selling album of 1983 and 1984 consecutively. So they're asking if Drake's run, and particularly the success of this album, was finding that Drake was finally having the kind of success and fame that Michael Jackson did, particularly just success. And at first I wasn't going to say anything. At first it compelled me enough to write notes for an article, and then I held back. But then I ultimately decided, as the rhetoric on social media was not diminishing, I decided to ask my boss at the Griot. I was like, look, this thing is happening. It's not really going away. If you want me to do a write-up about it, I have something prepped. Here are a few points. If you don't, then I won't go any further with it. He loved it. He wanted me to do it. So I said, okay, cool. So I finished it and I sent it out. And yeah, the response was overwhelming, and I thank everybody for reading it. But I basically went at it at this angle. I said to myself, okay, I don't want to come off as the over-emotional, quick to judge Michael Jackson stan that's just going to, say, no, of course not. I actually wanted to come at this angle. I said, okay, Billboard, all the other rap publications, they came at it. They started this debate because of numbers and statistics. So I said, okay, I'm going to put the debate to bed because of numbers and statistics.
Right.
And I won't throw in, because music is subjective, and I talk about it in my article, we can't blame people for liking Drake more than Michael Jackson, particularly people who are a younger generation of us. I mean, I'm 39 years old, so
yeah, I'm old. I'm old too. I'm old too.
So I understand that people of this generation, just by virtue of, the things that they grow up with and they're used to, is not going to be the same as me, just like the generation before me. So I didn't want to talk about it in terms of saying, well, Billie Jean is a much better song than Hold On. No, because there's no way to adequately measure that, because music is subjective, and you have to accept that.
Absolutely.
And you have to accept that in history there is a cultural depreciation of relevance for artists. You know what I'm saying? So, you know what I'm saying? Like Mozart isn't, people aren't talking about how many slaps Mozart has right now. You know what I'm saying? It's just, it's when Lonzo Ball talks about, I don't have Nas in my top 5. And that's understandable.
Right.
Regardless of whether he does the research or not, that's his decision. I don't have Nas in my top 5 either. And I was old enough to, know when Illmatic and all that stuff came out. But it's just personal preference. And you can't knock these kids, these young people, for liking what they like.
Right.
But history is an extremely important thing, and context is very important. So I basically talked about, and you can read about it in my article, I basically talked about how there's really no comparison of the two. Because what Drake benefits from that Michael Jackson did not benefit from in his time was the streaming culture and the streaming age. With Michael Jackson, because basically it wasn't just the streaming numbers that caused the argument, the debate to happen. It was the fact that Drake had 9 songs in the top 10 simultaneously a week after Certified Lover Boy came out.
Right.
Beating Michael Jackson's record and Janet Jackson's record of 7 top 10 hits from a single album.
Right.
With Thriller and Rhythm Nation, respectively.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing about it is that Drake benefits from streaming because of the fact that he doesn't have to commercially release official singles in order for songs to qualify for the Billboard Top 100, which is why those songs ended up on the top 10. And
also,
fine.
And only that,
that's fine, but yeah.
And when you come to about eras too, people understand. Like, there's also the, convenience of having streaming. Like part of the reason why, I'm not trying to sound like the old man on the lawn guy, because obviously I'm the MJ diehard here myself. I also want to sell Drake short, because I think Drake has been for the last 10 to 12 years the biggest hip hop star on the planet, and you can arguably one of the best top 2-3 stars in general on the planet in music right now. So I want to be that guy either. But there is a convenience though when you can just click on a song and it's access there. Whereas back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, that you had to literally do the work. If you want to request a song, you had to literally call the radio station to play the song, which is what a lot of companies use as the bar for listens and all that, and what's popular, what's trending, and whatever it may be. There was a lot more work put into. I feel it really was back when. So I think there's a more appreciation that the people who supported Michael Jackson's work in those years literally went out their way physically to make sure they had his art. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they had to go out of their house. They had to go to a record store to buy a physical copy of this record, come home, open it up, and then play it.
Right.
And also, Drake benefits from social media. Like, prior to Certified Lover Boy, I can say that at least 2 of his songs went number 1 because of social media. Tootsie Slide and In My Feelings in particular. He owes that to, TikTok and Instagram and all that, and those like sort of dance challenges. Michael, like imagine if social media was around in the 80s. Imagine how much like the internet would break down when Michael Jackson moonwalked and Twitter would blow up.
I mean, you see it now. Michael Jackson, 12 years dead. He still is a trending topic.
Exactly.
Dead.
And if you look at it, yeah.
So
I mean, he's been and this one tweet I sent out about an hour before my article went live. This got it's almost at 2,000 likes at this point. And because it was a direct point of my article.
I'm actually trying to find a link to your article because I want to read the last line of the article that really. I'm trying to find the link for it because I don't see it. Because I want to read the last line from that you said that really just dropped the mic moment. I can't. I guess if you want to say what you said the last line.
Yeah, I'll read it to you from here. I have it up. So the article, everybody, is called Michael Jackson. Sorry, the article, you can find it in the Griot. You can go to www.thegriot.com. That's THEGRIO.com. And please, shout out to the Griot. I've been with them for about a year and a half, and they're like family. It's been great, contributing with them. But go to thegriot.com, and the article is called Drake versus Michael Jackson, How the Numbers Show This is a One-Sided Debate. So the article ends after I basically lay out all of the statistics that prove that Drake's current success isn't comparable to Michael Jackson's success. I do talk about the fact that Drake, I give him credit for wanting to be mentioned in the same breath as Michael Jackson, because even though he hasn't publicly talked about it, he did make mention of himself in comparison to Michael Jackson in a song on his new album called You Only Live Twice, when he rapped, "Not sure if you know, but I'm actually Michael Jackson. The man I see in the mirror is actually going platinum." And, most people who get the Michael Jackson comparisons, they either say no, they give homage, or they outright reject it because it's too lofty. But I have to, give him some credit for, embracing this idea that he's on the same level as these guys. He has a tattoo of himself waving to the Beatles because he's like, and he had a line in one song that says, "I got more slaps than the Beatles." So he's measuring himself by not just other rappers, but other pop acts. So you have to give him his credit for that.
Right. I'm not a big Drake fan personally. I say that as someone who, think he's doing great things. But I'm not. That's not my cup of tea. His music, personally, that's it. But I can recognize his impact.
Exactly. You recognize his impact.
And the thing is, you don't want to get some of these fans too. Also, you got to be very careful. A lot of MJ fans, especially too, and I know this because I'm one myself. There is a lot of because of the years upon years of defending Michael, whatever it was on his personal life or his art. And I'm talking about even before he died. There is this innate need to immediately defend him and immediately just, be there triggered by anything that's even remotely a slight on Michael. Which, by the way, for the record, just the fact that he's being mentioned in Michael's, like anyone, if you're saying, to me, I always said, if someone says the next Michael Jackson, I think it was a compliment because you're acknowledging that. Yeah, that other guy is pretty fucking good. He was pretty damn good. So we're trying to find who can at least, measure up to this guy's greatness.
Yeah, and that's exactly my point. I remember I read a tweet by Torre, a very decorated author and podcaster who lives here in Brooklyn, where I'm currently sitting. And he talked about the fact that, look, Michael Jackson was great because there was a whole issue that we'll talk about this in a few moments. This whole issue about Janet Jackson and Madonna and who's the queen of pop. And Torre is like, no, neither Janet Jackson nor Madonna are the queens of pop, just like Michael Jackson's not the king of pop because their time has passed. And I didn't respond to this, but my thought behind that is, well, see, here's the thing about that. It's one thing for people to say who's the next king of pop. It's another thing for people to say who's the next Michael Jackson. And that is the rhetoric that happens in the media and publications. It's people trying to say who's the next Michael Jackson, not who's the next king of pop, not who's the next queen of pop or king of rock and roll or whatever. It's who's the next Michael Jackson because he is the template. So, and I'll read you the last line of my article. It says, if Drake wants the throne, he has much ground to cover. He may want to learn how to dance and how to compose music and produce and donate hundreds of millions of dollars to charity and perhaps record more albums with Future so that he has a chance to get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame twice, like Michael Jackson.
Right. And by the way,
So, yes.
I agree. I'm glad you touched up on that. Nice segue, by the way. I'm glad you touched on the Madonna Janet thing. 'Cause I actually did that was another thing that came up a few weeks ago on Twitter as well. I actually did a segment on this podcast, on one of my recent solo podcasts about that. Now, obviously, I love Janet. Everybody knows I love Janet. But I'll be honest, a lot of people don't know this, but I'm a pretty big Madonna fan. I'm actually a bigger Madonna fan than people I probably let on. And, again, it's the same thing also with Janet fans who are also, Michael fans as well too, intertwined kind of sort of, that this innate ability and this want to defend immedately if something's being knocked. And I to the point where they knock the other artists, not acknowledging that artist's greatness as well too. And I think a lot of people on that side of the aisle, on the Janet side of the aisle, don't realize just how great Madonna. Forget the fact you may like her music or not, but Madonna is a groundbreaker in ways that Janet benefited from.
Yes. There's some truth to that, but let me just say this, that, like I said, Madonna was a groundbreaker to a particular degree. I mean, all of them were taken from, like, Betty Davis.
I'm talking sexually more than else. Like, just to be the first woman to do what she did on stage, and just like, hey, you're going to deal with it, and that's it.
Yeah, and that's why I give Betty Davis a lot of credit, because then I think that she gets lost in the shuffle when we come to the history of women really embracing their sexuality on stage and on record. And I think she gets relegated to the past. Go. There's a great documentary about Betty Davis on Amazon that y'all should check out.
I'll check it out.
And also got to interview her for iRockJazz.com many years ago. So check that out too. But I digress a little bit. But what Madonna was able to do and what Janet was able to do, they're two different things to a certain degree.
Yeah.
But you have to give credit to Janet because, like Michael Jackson and Elvis, what people embraced Elvis Presley, despite the fact that he was basically doing black music at a time where black music was being ridiculed, and still was able to be the most popular musician of his time. Michael Jackson had to come that much further to be the most popular musician of his time and of all time because he was black, and so he was already a step or two behind Elvis, because there's always going to be a roadblock behind you when you are black. Same thing with Janet Jackson. Janet Jackson had the obstacle of, number one, being a black woman, number two, being the sibling of Michael Jackson, the Jackson Five, and number three, not really coming out of music in her own story. She started out in acting.
Yeah.
And that was her seen as what she was going to do. So when she finally got with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis for her third album, Control, and that's when she really established herself, what Janet Jackson was able to do was at every turn make an album that talked about independence in one way or another.
Right.
Whether it was independence of her personal life as a teenager and independence of her life as a professional and Control. Then you have independence in terms of herself and embracing social and political consciousness on Rhythm Nation. Then there's the sexual independence and embracing the power of her sexuality in Janet. And then there's the independence of her own personal mental demons in the Velvet Rope. And then also embracing the fact that you can be happy, and it's all right to be happy, and all for you. So, so that has to be put out there, because those are things that's really important. Not to mention the fact that she is so commercially successful as an artist, And Madonna is great and she deserves her due, but Madonna is not seeing Janet Jackson when it comes to things like dancing.
Oh no,
I think
I agree. I think, and I said this on the podcast a couple episodes back on my soul on this topic. Like, I think if you look at it as a actual artist, I think. Look. Whoever who you prefer, we prefer. That's subjective. Like, again,
yeah, exactly.
But Janet Jackson to me is a far better performer than Madonna is. I think,
I agree.
Where I would depend on Madonna more than anything else is more so because Janet did go that route in '93. Well, '89 definitely, but definitely '93 and beyond with the Rolling Stone cover and everything else that happened after that. With the sexuality thing, Madonna softened that blow for her. And I don't think people give her enough credit for that because Madonna was really the first, one to do it and take all the arrows for a good chunk of time. And then when Janet did it, it was a little more acceptable when Janet did it.
Hold on one moment.
No problem.
Yeah, because Madonna's album, well, first of all, she had already embraced sexuality in previous records. I think the Erotica album, which predates the Janet album by a few months.
Yes, it does.
So
maybe even 2 years.
No, Erotica came out in October of '92.
Did it really? Okay.
'93.
Oh, that was '91. Okay, never mind. Okay.
Yeah. So like 91 is like Breathless, like Dick Tracy Vogue era of Madonna.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I agree that probably did soften the blow, but at the same time, Madonna was being admitted that she was trying to be sexual and ironic in order to arouse a certain type of response from the audience. I think that what Janet was doing was sort of embracing her sexuality as an individual, and it came out on the wax more organically. I think that what Madonna did was a far more calculated thing,
of course, yeah,
than what Janet did, and that's why it ultimately becomes more satisfying. And plus, just from a subjective standpoint, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, just as songwriters and producers, are able to just sonically create music that is timeless, and not necessarily watermarked to the time that it was made in to a certain degree. I think that Madonna, you can say that about Madonna, but not as purely, because especially stuff from Erotica, like Deeper and Deeper, that's so it's so put into the time that it's in, because of the production that it is with Shep Pepitone. It's so a staple of the sort of prototypical dance music of the early 90s, rather than what Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis was able to do by using sampling, which is still very popular and very prominent today, not to mention their own sonic textures and growing as producers and songwriters, which crafting songs like If and like You Want This and Anytime, Any Place, The Body That Loves You, Again. I mean, Janet wrote
album,
Again, but
that album is sick. I love that album.
But it's just a great record, and I think that just in terms of the overall arc, I think that they just should stand on their own individually, and you can't and you shouldn't compare them, but because in terms of like having a Queen of Pop, I tend to say that they both were equals in that regard, even though I personally prefer Janet, not just because of the whole Jackson
angle,
link and angle, or even the Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis angle. I just happen to like the songs more, but I like a lot of Madonna songs.
Yeah.
I think that like True Blue is like just a great immaculate pop record.
Yeah, it is.
With just from beginning to end, but just Janet was just able to have so much more thematically satisfying music for longer than Madonna has. I think Madonna kind of got off on having gimmicks a little bit more than Janet did. Janet didn't have the privilege of being able to use gimmickry the way that Madonna did, even if Madonna was doing it genuinely.
Right.
But, a lot of it was gimmicks.
No, I agree with that 100% on that one. This year is the 25-year anniversary of the Fugees' A Score album, a legendary album, and they are going on the road. They are touring.
Yes, indeed.
So my question is this: are you going to see him? And if so, are you crossing fingers that Lauryn Hill comes out on time?
Okay. All right. Okay. So, I have to give a shout out to Fonte Coleman, who made a comment on a podcast called The Music Snobs, when people were complaining. When someone complained, "Oh, I can't believe Lauryn was late again." It's like, what do you mean late again? She's been late. It's not a glitch in the system. It's a feature in the system. Yeah. And I thought that was such an apropos way to say that, because I'm like, yeah, exactly. Like, she is late, and that is her. And if people really want to see her and they continue to see her knowing that she's habitually late, then, more power to you for having an infinite or Job-like patience with Lauryn. And when it comes to the Fugees in and of itself, it's very, very fascinating that people continue to come out in droves to see a group that, number one, only lasted for 2 full-length albums.
Yeah.
And only one of them was a successful hit. I don't even know if Blooded on Reality has even gone gold yet at this point.
It's amazing that thank you. It's amazing that this group, and to credit to them for the record, get your money, do what you gotta do. They've milked this one record, and as dry as it could.
That do that.
Huh?
I mean, so many people milk one record. So many people that go on tours and basically eat off of an album or off of a handful of hits. I mean, the Sugar Hill Gang, I've seen them touring all the time, and, people only really know Rapper's Delight. Some people know Apache because of the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Porch.
And a few less people know Eighth Wonder. And then beyond that, what is there? So there are a lot of people that are eaten from just having a handful of hits. Frankie Beverly and Maze have been touring with the same 12-song set list for 25 years, and they're still selling tickets.
Mm-hmm.
Much to Frankie Beverly's dismay, because he's been trying to retire
right. Yeah.
during that time. But with the Fugees, it says a lot about the strength of that album and the public's connection to that album, and the void of really wonderful music that's out at the moment that people want to go back, because nostalgia is a very powerful thing.
Yeah.
And like I said before, people get so connected with songs, and I said this about Lauryn too, because I saw Lauryn at the Apollo Theater, I want to say 2019, May of 2019, or May of 2018, I want to say, because it was the 20th anniversary of the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, which is also her lone studio album. Another
album that's been milked for 20 plus years that's still getting played today.
Yeah, but it's a brilliant album from beginning to end that tells an amazing linear story.
Top 10 for me. Top 10 for me. Yep.
Yeah, an amazing amalgamation of hip hop, soul, and gospel.
Absolutely.
So, and my thing is that it just shows the void of people wanting to hear that again, that no one else was able to fill artistically since the creation of the score. So nostalgia is a powerful, powerful thing. And if you want to go see that show, that's great. But for me, I'll say this. If for them to, get their money, go on tour, celebrate the 20th anniversary of this album, that's more power to them. But to me, concerts are fleeting. You go to a concert, you have a nice time. You can't really take it with you.
Right.
What you can't, if they can't leverage this time together to patch things up enough to be able to go into the recording studio and make another album that is at least not necessarily have to be comparable to the score, but something that is just genuinely pure of heart, that they put time and effort and thought into, that they feel good about putting out. And I think that if that happens, then that's the real triumph of this tour. Because at the end of the day, that's all that we're going to have left of these people anyway, is what they left behind, and that's the music. You know what I'm saying? I remember I put on my Instagram, people talk about, black Michael Jackson, white Michael Jackson, kid Michael Jackson. I'm like, no. When I put up a picture of a cassette tape, I was like, that's what Michael Jackson looks like to me, because that's what he is.
Yeah.
That's what he left behind. So it's the same thing with the Fugees. They left behind this album featuring this amazing, like I said, these amalgamation of hip-hop culture and their native Haitian culture, having someone like Lauryn Hill, who, in my estimation, is the greatest female rapper who ever lived, pound for pound, with songs
regardless of the lack of material that you put out beyond
but that's why I say pound for pound, because Biggie's in my top 5, but he's got 2 albums.
Right, me too.
But
top 3.
But he checks every single box in terms of ability and what it takes to be an MC. He did it all at a high level,
absolutely,
as did Lauryn Hill. And so with that, with Wyclef and Jerry Wonder's production style, with Praz's voice and his overall vision for crafting things together and helping to sequence things and having ideas.
Right.
I think that what can be done is for them to be able to make a really great album. I mean, if a Tribe Called Quest could summon it after an 18-year layoff, if D'Angelo could do it after a 14-year layoff, then I think that the Fugees can too, as long as they just stop the foolishness and just sit down and have an honest conversation about whether it's even possible, put whatever it is that they have to the side, and then just go and work and sequester themselves into the studio and really devote themselves to say, we're going to make as good an album as we possibly can for ourselves,
right,
and then for the people, and then boom. And if we never do anything else ever again after that, at least we said we could do that. If nothing else, just to have closure.
Right. Last thing as you go, you mentioned Tribe Called Quest themselves. Yeah. They had an album, 30-year anniversary of their a legendary album, Low End Theory. You had also this. So the same day, I believe it was the same day. That album, you had Red Hot Chili Peppers, Blood, Sex, Magic. What was it? Blood, Sex, Blood. I was getting it wrong. Blood, Sugar, Sex, Magic. And then Nirvana's Nevermind. All came out the same time.
The same day.
Same day.
Yeah.
30 years ago. Which album have all these albums impacted you? One of these albums impacted you? We're the same age, so I mean.
So Nevermind didn't impact me in real time, but its impact was, I felt it residually, because I was, that's 1991, so I was 9 years old. So it was all around me. And people were obsessed with Kurt, obsessed with that band. It felt like Teen Spirit was everywhere, and Lithium was everywhere, and Come As You Are was everywhere. My favorite song, I think, on Nevermind is In Bloom. That's probably my favorite song, which is actually the first single off the album. It wasn't Smells Like Teen Spirit. It was actually In Bloom. But I didn't really connect with me, just because, number one, I was at a point in my life where I was disassociating myself with music that either wasn't Jackson related or it wasn't sort of 60s or 70s Motown or funk or whatever it was like that, because I kind of got disillusioned with current music because of how vulgar it was getting. When NWA came out, you can notice there was a shift in people unapologetically cursing and being really vulgar and misogynistic. And so that turned me off to a lot of music. And so I missed a lot of that time. I had to go back and retroactively go back. And when I did do those things, I think I realized how much, like, damn, I really miss that. Like, Low End Theory to me is not only a Tribe Called Quest's best album, but it's one of the 3 greatest rap albums ever recorded.
Right.
I think that for them to pivot from People's Instinctive Travels and Paths of Rhythm to make this darker, denser, more nuanced album that more prominently featured Phife on the album, equally with Q-Tip, after Q-Tip was sort of front and center because Phife was still very much not as focused as being in the studio by his own admission. For him to come forth and have this great juxtaposition with Q-Tip, who's a very esoteric sort of lyricist, with Phife, who's extremely grounded everyman in terms of his lyricism. It's on paper, it shouldn't work, but It did work. And it's just a beautiful piece of music. With Blood Sugar Sex Magic, that was another record that was really ubiquitous for me. I grew up in the suburbs of Fayetteville, New York, which is right outside of Syracuse. So, you know, I was constantly around pop and rock radio. So Give It Away was all over the place. MTV was all over MTV. And then, of course, Under the Bridge, I have very vivid memories of that music video, even if I wasn't actively seeking it out. But once I got a hold of the album later on in life, and I really got to hear songs like Suck My Kiss and songs like The Power of Equality and songs like Breaking the Girl, I really understood, like, yo, these guys, like I said, it's just the marbleizing, like, thrash and funk together, and then incorporating elements of rapping from Anthony Kiedis and having these really sort of whimsical lyricism mixed with a lot of introspective lyricism was really the thing is that everybody tried to recreate the Nevermind sound after it came out, but nobody tried to recreate Blood Sugar Sex Magic because it's such a singular record that nobody has the capacity to attempt.
They are so original, and unfortunately for me, it took me being an adult to really appreciate. I knew who they were at the time, but I didn't get into rock music until probably a couple years after that. And the bands I gravitated to, really honestly, were like more heavier bands, like obviously Metallica and Rage Against the Machine and all that. But you know, Chili Peppers is a band I really learned to appreciate years later after I became an adult. You know what I'm saying? But it's so sick because, like, that, you know, we talk about eras of music. We talk about eras of years or impactful years of music history. 84 gets talked about a lot. Obviously, 94 gets talked about a lot. Dude, 91 was, and even 92. I mean, you look at some, 91 has some sick releases. Obviously, Nevermind it was a inflection point for music, you know, for grunge and all that. You know, Chili Peppers album, like we said here, the MJ's Dangerous will come out in November. The Metallica's Black Album, the biggest record they've ever done, and it's the biggest metal record ever. Comes out in August of this year too.
There's a lot of great
albums in '91, dude.
De La Soul is Dead came out that year. Octane Baby by U2 came out that year. Use Your Illusion 1 and 2.
Yes, with Guns N' Roses, right?
MJ Dangerous came out in November of '91.
Right.
So
it's a fantastic year.
Pearls came out.
Yes.
Diamonds and Pearls came out.
Yep. Prince.
Apocalypse 91 by Public Enemy, which has Shut 'Em Down, one of my all-time favorite Public Enemy songs.
Right.
What else came out in '91? Niggas for Life by NWA.
Right.
Even though like I said, once Ice Cube left, it really exposed them, but as caricatures of themselves.
Right.
But from a production and musical standpoint, that's probably Dre's finest hour to me. I rank that higher in terms of production than The Chronic, which came a year later. He really, stretched himself out on that album.
Right. Yeah.
And of course, there's there was something else that came out that year. Death Certificate by Ice Cube came out that year. Seal's first album came out that year.
A lot of sick
Tupac's
records.
first album was that year. Emotions by Mariah Carey, which is probably like my top 3 favorite Mariah Carey albums. Forever My Lady, Jodeci's first album was 1991. It's just
wow, that's right. That's 91 too.
Stuff.
Forever My Lady is 91. I forgot about that. Shoot.
Yeah, a lot of great albums came out in 1991. Yeah, absolutely.
This is definitely a topic that, I mean, I know you also do music podcasts. This is definitely a topic, 91, breaking down the records of that year and the impact they have culturally 30 years later. Definitely something to dive into, because, like I said, the 91 has that, 84 has that, 94 has that. I would say there's probably some years in between that, but yeah, it's incredible, it really is.
That was a great.
Anyway, anything before this, you got anything you want to promote? Anything you have going on? Any articles? The podcast? You're doing a lot of stuff. You got a lot of hands, a lot of stuff, man.
Yeah, I do have my hands on a lot of stuff. So here's what I will say. I want everybody to go to hopin.com. I produce a yearly media conference every year. I work at Brick Arts Media here in Brooklyn, New York, which is the borough's largest arts and cultural organization. And every year, the TV department that I work has a media conference called the Brick Media Maker Weekend, and we have some great free virtual workshops that are going on October 14th, 15th, and 16th. That's Thursday, October 14th, Friday, October 15th, and Saturday, October 16th. Go to hopin.com and look for Brick. That's BRIC. BRIC, Brick Media Maker Weekend. We have some great workshops on audio documentary podcast making with Matt Nelson, who was in charge of Spotify's Mogul series. We have a great workshops on media finance, how to generate capital for your projects. And we have our keynote speaker, which is going to be Rob Kenner, the New York Times best-selling author of The Marathon Don't Stop, The Life and Times of Nipsey Hussle, also the director and producer of the documentary De La Soul Is Not Dead. And we have a Perfect Your Pitch panel. We have some great filmmakers and producers who are going to help you perfect your pitch, whether it's a pitch for a film or a pitch for a television show or a web series. And that all happens over October 14th, 15th, and 16th online. Go to hopin.com. That's HOPIN.com, and search for Brick, BRIC, Brick Media Maker Weekend. And that's great. And just go to thegrio.com, search for my name, Matthew Allen, and you'll see all my work there. I have go to my, you can look for my article on Drake and Michael Jackson. I just posted an article. I did an interview with Chris Bowers, the brilliant pianist and music scorer for films and television, to talk about scoring the Aretha Franklin biopic, Respect. That's a good conversation. Also, my conversation with Chuck D is also an article on that. Yes, Chuck D did a great PSA to help people get information about colorectal cancer. So check that out at the Griot. And be on the lookout for an interview I did with Anthony Hamilton that's coming later this week about his new album, Love is the New Black, that's coming out. And please go to Spotify or Apple Podcast to follow my podcast, Get Off the Fence, the premier music debate podcast.
Yes.
Season 1 was 8 excellent episodes of me and a new guest every week, debating between 2 albums, often by the same artist. Today is the 45th anniversary of Songs of Key of Life by Stevie Wonder. So
you're a GOAT, of course. My number 2, you're a GOAT.
Yeah, that's my number 1 album of all time.
Right.
But I have an excellent debate with Sankofa educator Michael Harper about which album is better between that and Inner Visions. So you can go to Spotify and look up Get Off the Fence and listen to that. You can go to my Twitter and see it at Headphone Addict. You can also follow me on Instagram at Headphone Addict as well. And we'll be recording. We're going to start recording season 2 this week. So season 2 will start being released hopefully before Christmas time. We should be starting to air season 2 of Get Off the Fence. We have some great album debates lined up. So be on the lookout. And you can go to DEFYNE Media. That's DEFYNE Media at .wordpress.com for all of my articles, my podcasts, and some of my video content.
Awesome, Matthew. Glad to have you up on the potty, man. It's been a long time, and hopefully have you again soon, sooner than 3 years.
Yes. Yes, indeed. Hopefully so. All right.
All right, brother. Take it easy, man, all right?
All right. Take it easy.
All right, got it, man. Thank you.